Admiral Hyunwoo Park stood on the bridge of the Earthship Harmony's voice. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. Today would change everything for humanity. After 3 years of careful planning, Earth's first contact fleet had finally reached Nexus Prime, the giant space station where they would meet the Valthek Empire. "Sir, we're getting signals from the station," said Communications Officer Tae-ho Lee. His voice was calm, but Hyunwoo could see the excitement in his eyes. "They're welcoming us." Through the huge windows of the bridge, Hyunwoo could see Nexus Prime growing larger. The station was massive, bigger than any city on Earth. Ships from dozens of different worlds were docked there. Some looked like metal flowers, others like living creatures made of crystal. Earth ships looked simple next to them, but Hyunwoo felt proud anyway. "Captain Soo-jin Kim reports ready from the exploration vessel," said Tae-ho. "All 30 ships in our fleet are in position." Hyunwoo nodded. 30 ships carrying Earth's best and brightest. Scientists, diplomats, soldiers, and explorers. Everyone hoping to secure humanity's place among the stars. They had traveled for 6 months to get here, following the coordinates the Valthek had sent 3 years ago. The Valthek Empire controlled thousands of worlds. They had been in space for over 10,000 years. When their message reached Earth, it had been simple. "Young species of the third planet, you are invited to join the galactic community. Come to Nexus Prime." Earth's governments had argued for months about what to do. Some wanted to send weapons. Others wanted to send only scientists. In the end, they chose the middle path. The fleet had defensive weapons but came in peace. "Incoming transmission from the Valthek," Tae-ho announced. The main screen flickered to life. A tall reptilian figure appeared. Its skin was dark green with golden patterns. Its eyes were large and intelligent but cold. This was High Commander Vectar, leader of the Valthek military forces. "Humans of Earth," Vectar spoke in perfect English. "Welcome to Nexus Prime. I am High Commander Vectar. Your arrival brings great joy to the Empire." Hyunwoo stepped forward. "High Commander, I am Admiral Hyunwoo Park of the Earth Defense Fleet. We come in peace, hoping to learn and grow alongside your great civilization." Vectar's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "Indeed, peace is what we offer. Please dock at Station 7. We have prepared a great ceremony to welcome humanity into the Empire." The transmission ended. Hyunwoo felt relief wash over him. The first contact was going well. "All ships follow docking procedures," he ordered. "And remember, we represent all of humanity today." 2 hours later, Hyunwoo stood in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to stretch into space itself. Representatives from dozens of alien species filled the space. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others floated or crawled. All watched the humans with curious eyes. At the center of the hall stood a massive holographic projector. Vector approached it with ceremonial steps. "Today we welcome a new species to our great empire," Vector announced. His voice echoed through the hall and was broadcast across the galaxy. The humans of Earth joined thousands of other species under Valthek protection. Hyunwoo felt proud. Earth would be safe now. Humanity would learn from older, wiser civilizations. They would grow and explore the galaxy in peace. But something in Vectar's tone made him uneasy. "However," Vectar continued, "some species require guidance before they can truly join us." The holographic projector activated. Suddenly, Earth appeared in the center of the hall. Beautiful blue and green with white clouds swirling around continents. "Home. The humans have shown promise," Vectar said, "but their numbers are too great. 10 billion individuals cannot be properly managed. This must be corrected." Hyunwoo's blood turned to ice. "What do you mean?" Vectar turned to face him directly. "I mean, Admiral, that your species will be reduced to a manageable size. 1 billion humans will be sufficient for our needs." "Our needs?" Dr. Minho Choi, Earth's lead scientist, stepped forward. "What needs?" "Labor, of course," Vectar replied calmly. "The Empire requires workers. Humans show excellent potential for mining, construction, and basic manufacturing, but 10 billion is far too many. 9 billion must be removed." The hall fell silent. Even the alien representative seemed shocked. "You're talking about genocide," Hyunwoo whispered. "I am talking about efficiency," Vectar corrected. "And it begins now." The hologram of Earth suddenly showed new objects in orbit. Massive Valthek war platforms had appeared around the planet. When had they arrived? How had Earth's defenses missed them? No, Hyunwoo breathed. The first beam of energy struck New York City. The hologram showed the beam cutting through buildings like they were made of paper. In seconds, 8 million people simply ceased to exist. Stop this, Hyunwoo shouted, reaching for his weapon. Valtech guards moved faster than human eyes could follow. Energy bonds held Hyunwoo and his people motionless. Another beam struck London, then Tokyo, then Mumbai. Each city vanished in a flash of light, taking millions of lives with it. Tai-ho was crying. They're broadcasting this, he whispered. The whole galaxy is watching us die. On the hologram, Earth's defense fleets were trying to fight back. But they were too far away, positioned for exploration, not defense. The Valtech platforms were too powerful, too well shielded. Beijing burned. Moscow burned. São Paulo burned. This demonstration serves two purposes, Vector explained calmly while cities died. First, it reduces the human population to manageable levels. Second, it shows the galaxy what happens to species that might resist the Empire. For 6 hours, the slaughter continued. The humans on Nexus Prime could only watch as their homeworld died. Major cities, small towns, military bases, everything with significant population was targeted. The Valtech were efficient and thorough. When it ended, the beautiful blue and green planet was scarred with massive craters. The lights that had once shown civilization were mostly dark. The remaining humans on Earth will be processed and assigned work details, Vector announced. The humans here will serve as administrative assistants for the transition. Captain Soo-Jin Kim's ship, the Harmony, had been positioned at the edge of the solar system for long-range communications. She had watched everything. Her ship and 29 others were all that remained of humanity's presence in space. As she stared at her dying world, her communications officer handed her a coded message from Earth's surface. It was brief, sent in an old military code that few people knew. Iron Fist protocol is now active. Sanctuary coordinates follow. Remember the dead. Make them pay. Soo-Jin didn't understand what Iron Fist protocol meant, but she understood the last part perfectly. 10 billion humans had just died while the galaxy watched. And somehow, incredibly, Earth was still sending messages. The Valtech thought they had won. They thought humanity was broken. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Soo-Jin Kim stared at the coordinates in the coded message. They pointed to empty space far from any known system. Her ship, the Harmony, led the 29 other surviving Earth vessels away from the solar system. Behind them, their homeworld smoldered with the ashes of 10 billion souls. Captain, said Navigation Officer Bo Rayun, the coordinates don't match anything in our star charts. There's nothing there. Follow them anyway, Soo-Jin replied. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook with rage. If Earth sent those coordinates, there's something there. The journey took 3 days. 3 days of silence as the surviving humans tried to process what they had witnessed. Many couldn't eat. Some couldn't sleep. Others couldn't stop crying. Communications Officer Tai-ho worked constantly trying to contact other human settlements. The news was always the same. Every human colony, every space station, every research post had been destroyed. The Valtech had been thorough. Only the ships at Nexus Prime had survived, and only because they were too far away to matter. 200,000 humans. That was all that remained of a species that had numbered 10 billion just days before. On the third day, they reached the coordinates. Captain, Bora said, her voice filled with wonder. There's something here. Space around them shimmered. Suddenly, a massive structure appeared. It was enormous, larger than any space station humanity had ever built. The structure was clearly human-made, but the technology was decades ahead of anything on Earth. This is Sanctuary Control, came a voice over the communication system. Human fleet, you are cleared for docking. Bay 7 is prepared for your arrival. Soo-Jin couldn't believe it. How long has this been here? Welcome to Project Sanctuary, the voice replied. We've been waiting for you. The docking bays were huge. All 30 human ships fit easily inside, with room for hundreds more. As Soo-Jin walked through the corridors, she saw technology that seemed impossible. The walls were made of materials she didn't recognize. The lights were brighter and cleaner than anything on Earth. Everything felt advanced, purposeful. A tall man with graying hair approached them. He wore a simple blue uniform, but there was authority in his eyes. I'm Dr. Minho Choi, he said, Director of Project Sanctuary. I know you have questions. Dr. Choi was on Earth, Soo-Jin said, confused. I saw him at Nexus Prime. That was my clone, Minho replied calmly. We've had cloning technology for 15 years. The Dr. Choi who went to Nexus Prime knew he might not return. We all did. He led them through corridors filled with amazing technology. Robots worked alongside humans, building things Sujin couldn't identify. The walls showed star charts of the entire galaxy, with markers on thousands of systems. Project Sanctuary began 50 years ago, Minho explained. When we first detected alien signals, some people in Earth's government realized we might not be welcomed peacefully. They started preparing. They entered a vast chamber. The walls were lined with thousands of cryo-sleep pods. Most were occupied, 50 million people, Minho said. Earth's best scientists, engineers, soldiers, and thinkers. They volunteered to sleep here while Earth made contact with the aliens. If things went well, they would return home. If things went badly, they would survive to rebuild humanity, Sujin finished. More than that, said a new voice. A woman approached them. She was tall and strong with scars on her face and hands. She moved like a predator, with perfect balance and awareness. This was clearly a soldier. I'm Commander Ji-won Nam, she said. And we're not here to rebuild. We're here to make them pay. Minho led them to a control room with screens showing Earth. The planet looked dead, but as Sujin watched, she saw movement in the ruins of major cities. The Valthek think they destroyed everything, Minho said. But Earth's real military technology was never deployed. We sacrificed our people to maintain the illusion that we were weak and helpless. On the screens, massive machines rose from underground bunkers in the ruins of cities. They were clearly factories, but like nothing Sujin had ever seen. They moved with purpose, building things in the darkness. Every major city had deep bunkers, Ji-won explained. Automated factories, AI systems, genetic banks, weapon production facilities. The Valthek destroyed the surface, but underneath Earth is still very much alive. Alive and angry, Minho added. Bora stepped forward, her eyes wide. What are those factories building? Revenge, Ji-won said simply. Minho activated another screen. It showed a sleek, black ship unlike any human vessel Sujin had ever seen. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. This is a shadow ship, Minho explained. Invisible to Valthek sensors. Faster than their fastest vessels and armed with weapons they can't imagine. We've been building them for 20 years. 20 years, Sujin asked. But we only made contact 3 years ago. We made official contact 3 years ago, Ji-won corrected. We've been watching them for much longer, learning their technology, understanding their weaknesses, preparing for this day. They walked through more corridors, seeing wonders at every turn, rooms full of weapons that seemed to bend light itself. Laboratories where scientists worked on technology that looked like magic. Training centers where soldiers practiced with equipment that made them faster and stronger than any normal human. How many people knew about this? Sujin asked. Very few, Minho replied. Maybe 1,000 people on Earth knew the full truth. The rest were kept in the dark to maintain the deception. They died to make the Valthek overconfident, Ji-won added. And it worked. The Valthek think humanity is extinct. They have no idea what's coming for them. In the weapons laboratory, Dr. Dayun Seo showed them humanity's newest creations. Energy weapons that could cut through Valthek armor like paper. Shields that could deflect their most powerful attacks. And something even more amazing. Quantum-paired production systems, Dayun explained. We can instantly transfer materials and information across the galaxy. Every weapon built on Earth appears simultaneously in our armories here. Every piece of intelligence gathered by our scouts reaches our commanders immediately. Sujin looked around at the technology, the weapons, the sleeping army of humanity's best. How long have you been planning this war? Since the day we knew we weren't alone in the universe, Ji-won replied. Some people hoped for peace. We prepared for war, and now that war has come, Minho led them to the final chamber. It was enormous with a ceiling that stretched up into darkness. In the center stood a holographic display of the galaxy. Thousands of star systems were marked with different colors. Red marks are Valthek military bases, Minho explained. Blue marks are their major colonies. Yellow marks are client species that might rebel if given the chance. Green marks are systems we can reach undetected. There were a lot of green marks. The Valthek Empire controls 3,000 star systems, Ji-won said. But they're spread thin. They rely on their reputation for strength, not actual military power. That reputation just died with Earth. What's the plan? Sujin asked. Ji-won smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Operation Iron Fist. We're going to tear their empire apart piece by piece. We'll start with their supply lines and communication networks. Make them paranoid and afraid. Then we'll hit their military bases. Finally, we'll come for their homeworld. How long will it take? Bora asked. As long as necessary, G1 replied. The Valthek killed 10 billion humans while the galaxy watched. We're going to make sure the galaxy sees what happens to anyone who commits genocide against humanity. Minho activated the holographic display. It showed the current positions of human forces. There were far more ships than Sujin had expected. We've been building for 50 years, he explained. The survivors from Nexus Prime brings our total to 50,200,000 people. We have 500 ships, including 200 shadow ships, and every day Earth's automated factories build more. The Valthek think they won? Jiwan said. They think they're safe. They have no idea that the species they just exterminated has been preparing for this war longer than they've been alive. Sujin looked at the star map, at the green systems that humanity could reach, at the red systems that marked Valthek's strength, at the faces of the people around her, humans who had planned for decades to fight this war. When do we begin? She asked. Jiwan's smile grew wider. We already have. The first shadow ships left Sanctuary 6 hours ago. By tomorrow, the Valthek will start to learn what happens when you murder humanity's children. In the depths of space, invisible ships moved toward their targets. The Valthek celebrated their victory, unaware that they had not destroyed humanity. They had awakened it. 6 months had passed since Earth burned. Throughout Valthek space, strange things were happening. Captain Do Hyun-jung watched from his shadow ship as another Valthek supply convoy vanished. The ship simply stopped moving, their crews gone, their cargo holds empty, no distress signals, no signs of battle. Just empty ships drifting in space. Target secured, reported his tactical officer. All Valthek crew members transferred to the holding cells. Do-hyun nodded. The Valthek weren't killed during these raids. That would come later. For now, they were captured and held on hidden human bases. The Empire needed to wonder what was happening to their people. Strip the ships and send them adrift, Do-hyun ordered. Make sure they look like they were attacked by pirates. This was the genius of the plan. The Valthek never saw human ships, never detected human weapons. Their convoys simply disappeared, leaving behind empty vessels that could have been attacked by anyone. The shadow ships were invisible to Valthek sensors. Human technology had learned to bend light and energy around the ships, making them impossible to detect. The Valthek had no idea they were being hunted. On the bridge of his command ship, Valthek Admiral Kethvar studied the reports with growing frustration. In 6 months, his empire had lost over 200 supply convoys. Communication relays throughout the outer systems were going dark. Patrol ships were found empty and drifting. What are your theories? He asked his intelligence officer. Rebellion, sir, the officer replied. The client species are getting bold. The humans' destruction may have inspired them. Kethvar's claws scratched the metal of his chair. Which species? Unknown, sir. The attacks show no pattern. No specific technology. It could be any of them. This was exactly what the humans wanted. The Valthek were blaming their client species for the attacks. This led to increased oppression, which led to real rebellions. The galaxy was becoming unstable, and the Valthek didn't know why. On a hidden base near the edge of Valthek space, Intelligence Officer Haye-jin Park worked with a team of specialists. They were creating propaganda, spreading it through the networks of enslaved species throughout the Empire. The humans fought back even in death, read one message. Their world still builds weapons to strike at the Valthek. If a dead species can resist, what excuse do the living have? It wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't entirely false either. Earth's automated factories were still working, still building weapons and ships. The planet's AI network had evolved beyond its original programming, becoming something new and terrible in its dedication to revenge. The propaganda was working. On dozens of worlds, enslaved species were beginning to whisper about resistance. Some were starting to act on those whispers. Dr. Dayun Seo stood in the central control room of Earth's AI network. The planet's surface was still scarred and broken, but underground vast machines worked tirelessly. The AI she had helped create years ago was now something far beyond her original design. Status report, she said to the central computer. Production continues, the AI replied. Its voice was calm but somehow angry at the same time. Current output, 15 ships per day, 3,000 energy weapons per day, 50,000 rounds of ammunition per hour. And the android production? First batch will be ready in 2 months. They will be perfect soldiers. No fear, no hesitation, no mercy. They will remember what the Valthek did to us. Dawn nodded. The androids were her greatest achievement and her greatest fear. They would have human memories implanted in their minds, but they would be stronger, faster, and utterly without the emotions that might make them hesitate to kill. Meanwhile, the shadow ships continued their work. They struck communication centers, leaving entire systems cut off from the Empire. They attacked supply depots, stealing everything useful and destroying the rest. They captured Valthek officers and soldiers, gathering intelligence about the Empire's defenses. Captain Sujin Kim commanded a shadow ship called Silent Vengeance. She had volunteered for the most dangerous missions, the ones that took her deep into Valthek territory. Today she was approaching a major military base in the heart of the Empire. Approaching target, reported her navigator, Bora Yoon. Valthek base Torketh. Estimated garrison, 50,000 troops, 100 ships. Any sign they've detected us? Sujin asked. None. We're completely invisible to their sensors. The base was massive, built into an asteroid field. Valthek ships moved in and out constantly, carrying supplies and reinforcements to other parts of the Empire. It was a perfect target. Deploy the virus, Sujin ordered. The virus wasn't biological. It was a computer program designed by human AIs. When it infected Valthek computer systems, it would slowly corrupt their data, making their equipment unreliable. More importantly, it would copy all their intelligence and send it to human forces. The virus spread through the base's computer network like a disease. Within hours, it would be copied to every ship that docked there, spreading throughout the Empire. Mission complete, Bora reported. Virus deployed successfully. Take us home, Sujin said. Earth's children have work to do. On Nexus Prime, Valthek High Commander Vectar was growing concerned. The mysterious attacks were increasing in frequency and boldness. Entire star systems were now cut off from Imperial communications. Some colonial governors were reporting that their local species were becoming rebellious. Perhaps we were too harsh with the humans, suggested one of his advisors. The other species may fear they will be next. Vectar's eyes blazed with anger. The humans deserved their fate. They were weak and primitive. No one should fear meeting the same end unless they give us reason. But privately, Vectar was beginning to wonder. The timing was suspicious. The attacks had started just months after Earth's destruction. Could there be a connection? He dismissed the thought. The humans were extinct. He had watched their planet burn. Their few remaining ships at Nexus Prime had been destroyed weeks ago to prevent any possible revenge attempts. There was no way humanity could be responsible for what was happening. On a captured Valthek communications ship, Tae-Ho Lee worked to decode the Empire's military communications. The humans had learned the Valthek language and their encryption methods. They knew where every major fleet was positioned, where supply convoys were traveling, and what the Empire's military leaders were planning. Interesting, Tae-Ho said as he read the latest intelligence. The Valthek are pulling forces back from the frontier. They're consolidating their military to deal with the rebellion in the core systems. This was exactly what the humans wanted. The more Valthek forces were concentrated in the center of their empire, the easier it would be to destroy them all at once when the time came. Commander Jiwon Nam studied the intelligence reports in Sanctuary's war room. The plan was working perfectly. The Valthek Empire was eating itself alive, becoming paranoid and unstable. Their client species were beginning to rebel. Their military was concentrating in defensive positions that would become traps. How much longer? Asked Admiral Hyunwoo Park. He had been rescued from Nexus Prime in a daring raid by shadow ships weeks earlier. 6 more months, G1 replied. Maybe less. We need the androids to be ready, and we need more ships. But most importantly, we need the Valthek to be completely off balance when we reveal ourselves. And then, G1 smiled. It was a cold, terrible expression. Then we show the galaxy what happens when you commit genocide against humanity. The Valthek wanted to make an example of us. Instead, we're going to make an example of them. In the depths of space, shadow ships continued their deadly work. Valthek convoys vanished. Communication centers went dark. Military bases found their computers mysteriously failing. Throughout the Empire, enslaved species whispered about the possibility of freedom. The Valthek thought they were facing a rebellion by their client species. They had no idea they were being systematically destroyed by the extinct species they had murdered on live television. But soon, very soon, they would learn the truth, and by then, it would be far too late to save themselves. 2 years after the massacre, humanity was ready to reveal itself. Fleet Admiral Sang-Wook-oh stood on the bridge of the human flagship Retribution. Around him, 1,000 ships hung in space like deadly stars. These weren't the primitive vessels the Valthek had seen at first contact. These were instruments of war, built with captured alien technology and improved by human engineering. "All fleets report ready," announced his communications officer. "Operation Iron Fist is go," Sang-Wook nodded. Today the galaxy would learn that humanity had not died on Earth. It had been reborn as something far more dangerous. "Begin broadcast," he ordered. Across the galaxy, on every world and every ship, screens flickered to life. The same footage that had played 2 years ago began again. Earth burning, cities dying, 10 billion humans murdered while the galaxy watched, but this time, there was a new voice speaking over the images. 2 years ago, the Valthek Empire committed genocide against humanity. Sang-Wook's voice echoed across thousands of star systems. They killed 10 billion innocent people and broadcast it to the galaxy as entertainment. The footage switched to show the human fleet. Ship after ship filled the screens. More vessels than most species had ever seen in one place. The Valthek believed they had destroyed us. They were wrong. We are humanity. We do not forgive. We do not forget. And we never ever give up. On the Valthek homeworld, High Commander Vector stared at the broadcast in shock. "Impossible," he whispered. "We destroyed them all." "Today begins the end of the Valthek Empire," Sang-Wook continued. "For every human they killed, we will exact a price 10 times greater. For every child they murdered, we will take 10 of their worlds. This is not war. This is justice." The transmission ended. For a moment, the galaxy was silent. Then the human fleet struck everywhere at once. The assault was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships appeared without warning above every major Valthek world. They moved faster than Valthek vessels, hit harder than Valthek weapons, and fought with a coordination that seemed impossible. Above the military world of Kethmol, Captain Do-hyun Jung led his shadow ships in the opening attack. The base's defenses couldn't target what they couldn't see. Energy beams lanced out from invisible ships, cutting through Valthek vessels like they were made of paper. "All defensive platforms destroyed," reported his tactical officer. "Beginning orbital bombardment." Do-hyun watched as the military installations below were reduced to molten metal. "Any word from the garrison? They're requesting surrender terms." "Tell them we'll consider it after they've experienced exactly what Earth experienced," Do-hyun replied coldly. On the ground, something new appeared in the human attack. War androids built in Earth's factories and programmed with human memories stormed the Valthek positions. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were stronger than any human, faster than any Valthek, and utterly without fear. War android Model 7 led the assault on the main command center. It had been programmed with the memories of young Min Kang, a soldier who had died defending Seoul during the massacre. The android felt young Min's anger, his love for his family, his determination to protect others. But unlike a human, the android felt no fear, no hesitation, no mercy. Valthek soldiers tried to stop the advance, but their weapons couldn't penetrate the android's armor. Their fastest movements seemed slow compared to the android's reactions. In minutes, the command center was captured. "This facility is now under human control," Model 7 announced in perfect Valthek. "All personnel will surrender immediately or be destroyed." Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds. The human assault was perfectly coordinated, striking with overwhelming force at the exact moment the Valthek were least prepared. Intelligence Officer Hai-Jin Park coordinated the psychological warfare campaign from her ship. As human forces attacked, she broadcast carefully prepared messages to the Valthek client species. "The humans have returned from death itself," the messages proclaimed. "They offer freedom to all enslaved species. Join them, and help destroy the empire that has oppressed you for centuries." The response was immediate. On world after world, enslaved species rose in rebellion. They attacked Valthek garrisons, sabotaged military equipment, and provided intelligence to human forces. The empire that had seemed so strong was revealed to be built on fear alone. Dr. Dayun Seo monitored the battle from Earth's command center. The planet's surface was still scarred, but the underground factories worked at maximum capacity. Ships, weapons, and androids poured out in an endless stream. "Status report," she requested from the planetary AI. "All objectives proceeding on schedule," the AI replied. "Valthek resistance is crumbling faster than projected. Estimated time to complete victory 6 months. And our losses? Minimal. The enemy is technologically inferior and tactically predictable. They relied too heavily on their reputation. That reputation was crumbling as fast as their military. Species throughout the galaxy watched in amazement as the supposedly extinct humans crushed the mighty Valthek Empire with apparent ease. On Nexus Prime, Admiral Kethavar tried desperately to coordinate a defense, but human cyber warfare had corrupted most of his communication systems. Orders went undelivered. Status reports were filled with false information. His fleet commanders were fighting blind. "How many ships do they have?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," replied his aide. "Our sensors can't detect half their fleet, and the ones we can see are more advanced than anything in our database." "Where did they get this technology?" "We believe they stole it from us, sir. Our captured convoys are missing supply ships. They've been taking our equipment and improving it." Kethavar's claws dug into his command chair. For 2 years, he had thought the mysterious attacks were rebellions by client species. The truth was far worse. Humanity had been systematically stealing Valthek technology, learning their weaknesses and preparing for this moment. Captain Sujin Kim commanded the assault on the Valthek Military Academy on Torvel. It was a symbolic target, the place where Valthek officers learned to oppress other species. "All cadets and instructors will evacuate immediately," she announced, as her ships surrounded the planet. "This world is being claimed by humanity." "This is Academy Commandant Veltar," came the reply. "By what right do you claim a Valthek world?" Sujin's response was broadcast throughout the system. "By the right of the 10 billion dead. By the right of justice. By the right of strength. You taught the galaxy that might makes right. Today we are mightier." The Academy's orbital defenses tried to fight back, but human weapons simply went through their shields as if they didn't exist. The installations were destroyed in minutes, but the humans didn't stop there. They landed troops on the surface and began dismantling the Academy piece by piece. Every weapon was taken. Every piece of technology was analyzed and copied. Every document was scanned and transmitted to human intelligence. "Sir," reported Tae-Ho Lee from the Intelligence Center, "we're receiving complete Valthek military databases from 17 different worlds. Their entire strategic doctrine, their fleet positions, their technological specifications, everything." Commander Jiwan Nam smiled as she reviewed the intelligence. "Perfect. Now we know exactly how to destroy them completely." The war wasn't just about military victory. It was about psychological domination. The humans made sure that every Valthek defeat was broadcast throughout the galaxy. They wanted everyone to see that the mighty empire was helpless against human technology and tactics. On the Valthek homeworld, civilian populations watched in terror as human ships appeared in orbit. The same ships that had seemed so primitive just 2 years ago now looked like harbingers of doom. High Commander Vectar made a desperate decision. He opened communications with the human fleet. "This is High Commander Vectar of the Valthek Empire," he announced. I request negotiations." Fleet Admiral Sang-Wook-Oh appeared on the screen. His expression was cold and merciless. "You may speak," he said simply. "The Empire is willing to discuss terms," Vectar said, trying to maintain some dignity. "Perhaps we can reach an agreement. Rebuild Earth. Compensate the human survivors. Find a peaceful solution." Sang-Wook was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his words carried the weight of 10 billion dead. "High Commander, 2 years ago you offered humanity a choice. Submit to slavery or face extinction. Today I offer you the same choice. But surely we can negotiate." "The time for negotiation ended when you murdered our children on live television," Sang-Wook interrupted. "Submit to human authority or face the consequences. You have 1 hour to decide." The transmission ended, leaving Vectar staring at a blank screen. Around him, his empire burned. Human forces had captured or destroyed most of their major military installations. Rebellions raged on dozens of worlds. The client species that had once feared the Valthek now hunted them through the streets of their own cities. And above their homeworld, 1,000 human ships waited patiently for an answer. The Valthek Empire had ruled the galaxy for millennia. But in just 2 years, humanity had reduced it to ruins. Now came the choice that would determine whether the Valthek species would survive to see tomorrow. The Valthek chose submission. 1 hour after Fleet Admiral Sangwuko delivered his ultimatum, High Commander Vector appeared on screens throughout the galaxy. The proud leader who had once ordered the death of 10 billion humans now knelt before human authority. The Valthek Empire surrenders unconditionally to humanity, he announced, his voice broken. We accept whatever terms you choose to impose. It was the end of an empire that had ruled for thousands of years, and it was the beginning of something new. 5 years later, the galaxy was a very different place. Admiral Hyunwoo Park stood on the observation deck of the new human capital ship New Earth. Through the windows, he could see the planet that had once been the Valthek homeworld. Now it was called Remembrance, and it served a very different purpose. The planet's surface was covered with memorial gardens. Each garden represented one of the cities destroyed during the massacre. 10 billion names were carved into crystal monuments that stretched toward the sky. At night, the monuments glowed with a soft light that could be seen from orbit. But Remembrance was more than just a memorial. Deep beneath the surface, vast factories worked constantly. Valthek workers, now serving human supervisors, built ships and weapons for humanity's growing fleet. The former rulers of the galaxy had become laborers for their conquerors. Status report, Hyunwoo requested from his aide. All sectors report normal operations, came the reply. Ship production is ahead of schedule. The new colonies are well established, and the integration programs are proceeding smoothly. Integration, that was humanity's word for what they had done to the galaxy. Every species that had served the Valthek Empire now served humanity instead. But unlike the Valthek, humans offered something different to their subjects. Hope. Captain Sujin Kim commanded the patrol ship Silent Justice as it visited the outer colonies. Her job was to ensure that human law was being followed and to help newly freed species adjust to their independence. Today she was visiting Keftar, a world that had been enslaved by the Valthek for 800 years. The local species, called the Kef, were small and peaceful. Under Valthek rule, they had been forced to mine dangerous crystals in toxic environments. Captain, reported her science officer, the Kef Council is ready to meet with you. Sujin walked through the colony's main street. 5 years ago, this place had been a prison camp. Now it looked like a real city, with schools, hospitals, and parks where Kef children played safely. The council chamber was simple but dignified. 3 elderly Kef waited for her, their large eyes bright with intelligence. Honored Captain, said the eldest, we have prepared our monthly report. Sujin reviewed the data on her tablet. Crystal production was up, but more importantly, so was everything else. Education levels were rising. Disease rates were falling. The Kef population was growing for the first time in centuries. These numbers are excellent, Sujin said. Your people are adapting well to freedom. Freedom, the elder repeated as if tasting the word. We had forgotten what it meant. The Valthek told us we were born to serve. You have shown us we were born to live. This was the difference between human rule and Valthek oppression. The Valthek had enslaved other species to serve their empire. Humanity freed those species and helped them build their own civilizations. Of course, there were conditions. Every species under human protection had to follow human law. They had to contribute to the common defense. And they had to remember what happened to those who committed genocide. But for most species, these conditions were far better than what they had endured under the Valthek. On Earth, Dr. Insubek tended the memorial gardens in the ruins of Sol. The planet's surface was slowly healing, but the scars would remain forever. That was intentional. Humanity wanted to remember what they had lost and what they had gained. Dr. Beck, called his assistant, the delegation from the Zephyr Republic has arrived. Insu nodded. The Zephyr were one of the newer species to request human protection. Their own empire had collapsed in civil war, and they needed help rebuilding. The Zephyr delegation was led by Ambassador Velandra, a tall, graceful being with silver skin and kind eyes. She looked around at the memorial gardens with obvious emotion. So many, she whispered. I had heard the numbers, but seeing the monuments, 10,400,700,016. Insu said quietly, We know the exact count. Every single life is remembered here. And this is why you fight, Valandra said. Not for conquest, but for justice. Partly, and Sue agreed. But mostly we fight to make sure this never happens again. To anyone. The human military doctrine was simple and terrifying in its effectiveness. Any species that committed genocide against another would face immediate and overwhelming retaliation. Any species that enslaved others would be forcibly liberated. Any species that threatened human allies would discover what human protection really meant. In 50 years, there had been exactly 3 attempts by aggressive species to repeat the Valthek's mistake. All 3 species were now extinct. The galaxy had learned to fear human justice. Commander Jamin Ryu led the inspection tour through the Valthek work camps on Remembrance. The former rulers of the galaxy lived in simple but comfortable housing, working 8-hour shifts in the factories, eating adequate food, receiving basic medical care. It was far better treatment than they had given their own slaves, but it was still slavery. The Valthek production quotas are being met, reported his supervisor. Morale remains acceptable. Jamin watched the Valthek workers through the transparent aluminum windows. They moved slowly without the pride they had once shown. 5 years of servitude had broken their spirits. Any requests from the workers? He asked, the usual. Better food, shorter hours, permission to see family members in other camps, and the standard request to return to their homeworld. Standard response? Your homeworld is now a memorial to your victims. Your families are alive and well in camps designed for their safety. Your conditions will improve when you demonstrate genuine understanding of your crimes. Some of the younger Valthek were beginning to understand. They worked harder, showed respect for their supervisors, and occasionally even expressed regret for what their empire had done. These individuals were gradually given better assignments and more privileges, but the older ones, like Vector himself, remained defiant in their hearts. They worked because they had to, but they still believed they had been right to destroy humanity. Those ones would never be freed. President Suyan, Kim addressed the Galactic Council from the chamber that had once belonged to the Valthek Senate. Representatives from 400 species listened as she outlined humanity's vision for the future. The old empire is dead, she announced, but we are not here to simply replace one tyrant with another. We are here to ensure that tyranny never again takes root in this galaxy. The council chamber was a mixture of fear and hope. Some species genuinely supported human leadership, grateful for the freedom and protection it provided. Others submitted because they had no choice, terrified of what might happen if they resisted. But all of them understood the message. The humans were not interested in traditional conquest. They were interested in something far more dangerous: justice. Every species has the right to determine its own destiny, Suyan continued. But no species has the right to determine another's destruction. We will protect the weak, guide the lost, and destroy the evil. This is humanity's promise to the galaxy. After the session, Ambassador Valandra approached the human president. Your people have built something remarkable, she said, an empire based on protection rather than exploitation. It's not an empire, Suyan corrected gently. It's a family. A sometimes dysfunctional family, but a family nonetheless. And the Valthek? What happens to them? Suyan's expression hardened slightly. They serve, they work. They remember what they did. And maybe someday their children will be better than they were. Late that night, Suyan stood alone in her office, looking out at the memorial gardens of remembrance. The glowing monuments cast their light across the landscape like stars fallen to earth. On her desk was a report from the Frontier Scouts. They had made contact with a new species called the hegemony. Early reports suggested they were aggressive and expansionist with a history of enslaving weaker civilizations. Suyan activated her communicator. Get me Fleet Admiral Sangwuko. Yes, Madam President? Assemble the Third Fleet, we may have work to do. Another liberation campaign? Possibly. The hegemony apparently believes that might makes right. It's time we taught them what real might looks like. Across the galaxy, human ships began moving into position. The same ships that had destroyed. The Valthek Empire prepared to defend another species from oppression. 50 years had passed since the massacre of Earth. Humanity had grown from a single world to a galactic power. They ruled not through fear, but through the promise of protection and the certainty of justice. The galaxy was safer now, freer, more just. But it was also more dangerous for those who chose evil over good. In the depths of space, exploration ships searched for new species to contact and protect. On thousands of worlds, human teachers helped former slaves learn to read. In the factories of remembrance, Valthek workers slowly built the ships that would ensure their crimes were never repeated.